Okay, today I have this Teac dual cassette deck, W60. I think these were part of like a stereo system, yeah, from amplifier A60. So it does have a power cord, does have record input and line output. That might have just been for a remote or something, but I think these W series were just part of a sort of combined system, all sold together. Not an overly great system. I think they're sort of late 80s, early 90s era. And this is only like $5. This thing, only wasn't really that interested in it, but I thought it might actually have some Tanashin mechs, which I'm looking into inside here. I didn't actually even realise at first that it was an auto reverse on one deck, and Tanashin did make a combined, just an auto stop deck and an auto reverse deck, but I'm not sure if they were this early or not. So I guess we'll have a look at this and just see what's going on with it. I mean, the doors are all kind of milky. Might be good for parts more than anything, I think. They weren't particularly anything special, I don't think. It's got remote pause, direction, normal high speed, Dolby noise reduction. So it doesn't even say what sort. We do have metal and normal, metal and chrome. So it wouldn't have been a bad deck in its day, but I don't think they're anything particularly flash. I did quickly take the screws out of this, trying to see what sort of mech it had, but didn't really enlighten me at all. I guess it sort of looks like a Tanashin, that one does, on the back. But of course this, I have no idea whether they like that or not. The front that I can see kind of looks like it. Hang on, we got a... I think that says 1988, but I could be wrong. Oh no, is it something 88/27? Maybe it's the 27th week of 88 is what it means. I think Tanashin did like to stamp things on their mechs. You rarely see their name on anything, probably because the manufacturers didn't want people opening these things up and going, oh look, you got a deck made by someone else in there. They just want people to assume that they made it themselves, I guess. But the motor has nothing on it that gives any indication of year by the look of it. I've actually got a Philips chip in here. Is that a Dolby chip? Yeah, it is. Philips Dolby chip. That's not something you see every day. Whole heap of potentiometers, none of them labelled as to what they do. Another two there, another two there. My God, how many's it got? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. That's probably the, oh no, it might not be the meters. So at least 12 trim pots now, which is kind of ridiculous. But maybe it's for the bias for metal, chrome, normal, who knows. You've got playback level, record level, meter level, and yeah, the rest of them could be something silly like that. We've got another chip down in here. KUP 10088 mainboard. Don't know if that means anything. Who knows actually made this. Got a KUP on the other board as well, the power board. So these are a bit random who made them. Where was it made? Made in Korea. So this is a Korean deck. So could be a Gold Star or something. Wouldn't be surprised if it was. Okay, I'll put a power cord on it and turn the power on, and we do have an orange LED there. Not the easiest to see. Well, that sounds like it might have a broken pause or something scraping on the capstan. Of course, anything we run is gonna, because it's a single motor, so it may be a super simple fault anyway. I guess what I should do is really have a listen with a tape. Get the old amp going. Let's see if at least get audio out of this thing, I guess. Don't tell me it's a blank bit in the tape. Of course, that's why these test tapes end up being a real pain. So that works. Come on. I'd say that's the faulty deck because that's got a lot of wow in it. And it sounds like the noise is coming from that side anyway. Changes direction, so everything's basically running in this thing. Well, without testing the record, but that's pretty rare that ever fails. Everything's running in it, but that noise, and I'm guessing you can see it. Straight down under the capstan there is the broken pause, which I had in something else as well. I think it was a boombox. So I'm doing so many of these things now, they're starting to get repetitive, which is a good sign. Once you do a few of them, you start realising there are some common sort of faults. So this probably is a Tanashin mechanism then, which is great because I want to see this one. I'm really interested in what the hell we've got here. Is it easy to take that whole front off? It probably is. Because I'm hoping this is actually an earlier version of their combined auto reverse. Because the other one, the later one that they had on their website when they sort of were around in the early 2000s, has a spin around head. That's the thing I noticed with this. This one, strangely, for something you don't see very often in a hi-fi deck, has a car cassette player type 4 head or double head or whatever you want to call it. So it doesn't spin the head around, it just changes directions, which also means it has to switch the actual head from one head to the other like a car cassette player does. Let's hold this together, nothing much. We can have a few switches and stuff hanging on here, so I'm not sure how much I gain by doing this, but as long as we mark these things, I guess. If I push on that, it should come out. Yeah. So it's white inwards to the centre. What is this wire? That's right over here. I probably should mark these where the white wire went. The trace. That should free things up a bit. But we've still got these two here. But as long as I get past those switches, it's still not going to come. What's stopping it? Oh, this earth is someone's put a little earth wire there, haven't they? Now we're talking. What a mess. What do these go to? No idea where they go under the decks, so I assume it's something to do with the tow decks. So the earth was on that bottom one. But I'm really hoping this is some version of Tanashin, and it should be the one with the full auto stop, I think, but don't know, they may have made one without the full auto stop. So that's why it could be very interesting. And it wasn't until I got home and got this out of the car that I suddenly realised this might be what I'm looking for. Oh no, it's a it's not the full auto stop. So maybe I've discovered another new Tanashin mechanism, which is not something I really want to do because there's so many of the damn things already. Oh, counter belt. Ha! Thought, where the hell did the belt pop off from? But that's, of course, there's a counter on the front here. Didn't even spot that. Too busy trying to... Did someone actually purposely put that in there? No, it's because it's flipped over. Ah, now we're knocking all these switches around, which are easy to break. 20 things to distract you, but this centerpiece sort of looks like a Tanashin. How does the auto stop work on this one then? Oh, of course it's auto reverse, so it has its own. It'd be these things, something like a car cassette. I reckon these are the bits. Did I see a Tanashin? I think I did. Isn't there a Tanashin patent, I think, that might have showed these things? Oh, well, that might be another proof that it is a Tanashin or not, but that definitely is. That's the I can't remember the deck number now. A 20 whatever, 21 without the Z on it. TN21 I think it was, wasn't it? I can't even remember now. And this, who knows what it is. But if that is as early as 1988, and this system looks very 1988, I must say. I'm just guessing, I think that's an 88, it could even be a 68 or something, given how blurred it is, and I think it's definitely 88. And yeah, it looks like it's got the thing, the auto on one end. Is it auto stop? Like continuous play, something like that. Something to do with continuous play or something. What's it saying? Auto stop, continuous playback, it says on the auto reverse deck. High speed dubbing. It's either something to do with when you put it in a dubbing mode it starts the other deck, or it's just continuous play. There's our switch. The audio head goes straight into this little switch here, and that's what's going. No, it's not going to those wires. Where are these wires? They're just from that head. It's just got these massive, much bigger than usual wires. They must have had some of that to use up or something. I don't think I've ever seen a head wire in a cassette player that big. I reckon LG or whoever made it probably got a bargain price on it or something and decided to use that stuff. Because it's a very large wire. This one's the normal sort of one. So that's actually got, hang on, why's it got, what on earth have they done here? That's an auto reverse head. It's just got the usual earth left and right. This one goes to both sides of the head. I wonder if that's something to do with the record. So it's actually got 4 wires plus an earth there. The things you see in these things, they're all different. And that's how record stops. So yeah, off on the record deck, I don't think they made it recording auto reverse decks, they just made them for playback. And the record deck, which would have been the one you'd think they'd make the auto reverse, is always the non-auto reverse. But this is definitely, I think we can say both bits of this are Tanashin. Does this deck have any resemblance, the way it's stamped or anything? Sort of, other than being the same size, not that much. But yeah, I wish I knew what all these different decks were called. You can find some info on some of their stuff, but not all of it. But these were generally sold as a complete unit. Pair of decks, and I think, like I say, this is an early one. I think it's a TN591 or something is the later one. And the only other deck I need to get one of those later ones, because they got the ones with the little wobble up and down full auto stop thing. So this deck would have the little plastic bit that wobbles up and down, and the auto reverse had 2 of them. And then there's a version of that deck as well which has none of these button bits because it's a logic control deck. So it'd have some sort of gear or something to, when you apply voltage or hit the solenoid or whatever, the thing lifts up, goes into play, then you hit the solenoid again, it drops back out of play. The only other thing I guess here is, what are these belts like? They're actually good. That one's a bit slippery. That's not that bad. I don't know, it seems slippery compared to that, but maybe it's these ones that are slippery, or just that one capstan. I'd almost swear this has had new belts in it. I don't think it needs new ones, and I don't think I intend to do that to it anyway. But what we do need to do is get this capstan out. So that means both belts have to go. That one can stay on there for now, and the clip. And I don't know if this is, have I got, I think I accidentally flicked the bits off one of my other ones. Is there a split in this? Yeah, there is. I think I accidentally broke one, so I had to pinch it off my other spare Tanashin mech, which means I haven't got a spare pause thing. But this maybe, it looks like all the bits are still there at least. I think the other one I'd lost them, is why I had to nick them. This one will just be split, and you can just glue it back on, I think. Oh, that capstan disappeared down there quick. It's dying to fall out. Is that another washer there? Oh, there goes the little pieces that are falling out. Guess we should have a look down a bit closer here. So I've got a little spring and a little plastic cap thing there that are falling out. Put everything over on the deck there for now so I can find it again. And it's that little plastic cap bit that's broken, split or something. Oh, there's the other piece that goes underneath. I've got belts and stuff going everywhere. Oh, that's going to hit that thing, that's right, they have to come off as well. This lever here for the continuous play or whatever it is has to come off, like you have to do if you want to change the belt. That belt can probably come out, both belts can come out. Capstan out of the way. Whoop, there's one little washer there, that's what we've got to keep an eye out for. Put that on the capstan, because that'll disappear very quickly otherwise. Guarantee it won't be there when you come back. Now, is that one on the other side? I think that is. Yeah, it is. So that's the second one. I might put that over there, because if I put on the capstan, I'll probably just put the capstan back and forget it's there. So we've got a little record pin thing pause pin sticking up there. And where is the actual pause? Oh, there, so that little pin next to it. So that little gold pin on this moving metal bit, that piece there, that is the actual bit that goes up and down in this little piece. That slides up and down this little path, so it goes down here, up, catches under that piece on the first press, and when you press it again it gets pushed down to one side, usually the other one I think, but either side doesn't matter, and then when you let go it slides all the way back up and pauses off. Push it on, it goes down, clicks into there, and it holds, and then push it and it goes back up. And that's the little pin is the bit that does that, because that's on the moving part. And we've got a fixed part that this thing just sits on like so. And if I just hold that there, we should be able to make pause. It locks in, locks off. So it's just a sort of toggling action, press on, press off. And of course these little bits, the little white cap thing on it splits usually. It's so fine I can barely see it, but is there a split down that side? I have to use a magnifier to look at it. I can see a partial crack there in the very thin bit on the end. Usually you've got to like push something inside, that's probably too big, I don't want to snap it in half, but if you can find a screwdriver the right size. Actually this is the perfect thing, and a little hook, because that's tapered. I don't want to push too hard, but is it going to open up? Ooh, it's very hard. I don't think that has split the full way. All we can really do is put it on and try it. This one may stay there, but something must have caused it to come off. The other thing I can quickly do is get a cotton bud and clean any potential grease off there, because if it didn't have it before, it's probably got it now. We need to let that dry a bit, because that'll lubricate it for sure. Anything liquid on there will help it pop off again. I should really take that other piece off, but that'll do. Now that spring, God, they disappear. Very hard to see on their side. I'm going to put the little thing down into the spring and then press it down, and it does actually stay there. It's not very strongly attached though, so we'll see how pause works. Just be careful, because if that goes, it'll shoot off across the room somewhere. But if I give that a slight flicking up, it actually holds on reasonably well. It doesn't shoot right off as quick as I thought it would. Sometimes they do. But if I touch that, it does, and take any force to lift it. Now the spring's come up with it. That's not what I wanted. Go away, spring. So what I might do is just put a tiny little bit of araldite in there. No reason you can't fix them. I think they normally last alright. and that way I don't need to use any parts on this, and I can fix this deck. And I better get some photos of this while it's out, because this is another Tanashin. I'm trying to catalogue all these mechs, because it's probably time it was done by somebody. And if it can do it photographically, all the better. So there's photos of each, the details of each one, even though there's going to be slight variance and who knows what. Now this doesn't matter if it gets glue on anything else really, but I mainly want to get it up inside the hole a bit. Try and push some up in there. Don't know if that's really filling it up or not, but oh yeah, it's gone up to the other end by the look of it. Excellent. Now the only other hassle is this is going to be slippery now because it's got glue on it. I think we can try, but is it going to push the whole heap of glue out? What did I do last time? I put the capstan back in with a bit of cardboard sitting on it, I think. Just better be keep an eye on that so it doesn't flick off across the room somewhere again. And we've got some metho on there, so let's just clean this capstan while it's out, because it's a lot easier. And I just put a piece of cardboard on top of the, because it's not far from the capstan. If I got some cardboard in the rubbish, here's a bit of eraldite container there, that'll do. I don't know if I had to fold it or what, but let's see what the gap is. Go away wires, we have, very hard to see, it's a decent gap, so a bit of folded cardboard is probably about right. I guess we'll know when we put the capstan in. Now it's fallen off. Actually I've got eraldite on that, I better be careful what I touch with that. Don't know if that's tight enough, it's not bad. Could be a little bit tighter, I think. I think that was only like a 1.5 bits of cardboard because it's a bit ripped. No, if I get rid of that thin bit. Either way, that'll glue in position good enough, I think. We've got the washer on that side. In theory, I probably should put a little bit of oil on this, but I'm not going to be using this deck, I don't think, for anything, so that's about perfect. And I should be able to flick that off without having to mess with the capstan afterwards, without having to unclip it or anything. Let's clip it back home. I won't spin it because that'll just flick that cardboard out. I won't worry about I can put that other lever in, I guess, so we don't lose that. Is that going to get in the way of the cardboard? Don't think so. I should be able to just spin the capstan and get the cardboard out. And then it's a matter of whether I can get the belts back on with the capstan in, which I should be able to. I might even replace them, although I'm not going to use this thing, I don't think, so there's probably not much point. But I really wanted to have a look inside this just to see if it was a Tanashin or not. I think I've got that in wrong. That lever should be under the other one, I think. It's hard to know what went where, but it's got grease on it. I think you've got to lift this other thing here, lift that up. How do I get that under? Yeah, that's it, underneath. But that's really awesome if this is an earlier auto reverse Tanashin, and it's got, strangely, a car type auto reverse head, so it's before they went to the flip around ones. Or maybe not before they went to them, but they obviously didn't think it was worth it in this one. Probably the only reason you need a rotatable auto reverse head is when you've got a separate erase head, I guess, because if you change directions you would have to change the direction of the erase head, because in theory you could make it twice as wide, the erase head, but if you just sort of, even if you had two coils and you powered up one half, I reckon it would just, because that's a lump of ferrite, I think it would probably just magnetise the whole thing and erase both tracks anyway, so you'd be erasing one side or racing both sides and recording on just one. So I reckon that's why they've done it. So most of these, the rotatable heads have the erase head on them, you'll notice in the record deck, so it keeps the erase head in alignment with just the single playback head. Well, that's a dual one, a stereo one, but single track, or 2-track rather than 4-track like this one, single side head. So I guess that's why they probably had to do that. If you want auto reverse in a record deck, you got to rotate it, and once they start making rotatable heads and that, it would make sense in the factory to just make them all have rotatable heads. You're just going to make one mechanism already set up, much like that Panasonic one I looked at, where the auto reverse rotation of the head also does the pinch rollers. So you may end up for that reason, or just because it's easier to make a single deck at a time. And if you just have a playback rotating head in one and a record rotating head with erase, so combination head of record, playback and erase, then it would just make sense on the production line, I think, rather than having, though Tanashin did do these where they made 2 separate decks and they put them in various combinations sort of thing. So, you know, the manufacturer who was building the cassette player could chop and change, I guess, what they wanted, but these were kind of off the shelf. I think these dual, you could either get a dual record playback, both with these cheapo semi-auto stops that only work in play with a little tension arm, or you could get 2 of the ones with a full auto stop, or you could get like the combo of either cheapo or full auto stop deck and an auto reverse deck. Don't think they ever made a combo with the semi-auto stop and a full auto stop in a dual deck. But I was actually thinking with some of these older boomboxes I got, I could probably upgrade these decks. I think they basically mount exactly the same, and even using the same motor bracket and stuff, as long as, you know, possibly got to swap the heads or swap the wiring to the heads, I think you could actually just change the whole mechanism and upgrade it to a full auto stop if you can find like an old deck like this that isn't really worth much, and just nick the mechanisms out of it and use it to like upgrade, like that Iowa boombox I got, or I think even the National one, both have these cheap semi-auto stop sort of decks. And it's not a lot of difference, but it is nice when it actually stops on rewind and fast forward. You know, it's not that often probably with a boombox that you weren't sitting right in front of it when you're doing something, but it's nice when they actually stop. You can just set them and let them go and they stop when they get to the end. But I will have to have another look at those little pieces, because I get a feeling they'd be the detectors. I think they must be something to do with the tension. What happens when we turn it? So if we're turning them both that way, one's pushing down on this arm, one's not. When it stops, what happens? Something should... Oh, actually we're not in play, so that doesn't help. Let's put it in play mode, take off pause. Though, which side? We're going that way? Oh, well no, we've got both up. What the hell's going on there? Oh no, that one's not engaged. That one's just close to engaged, but not engaged. That pinch roller's engaged. Wrong way. That's working. That one's pushing down. That one doesn't affect it. So when we stop, there must be something else acting on this, I reckon. I think they had, in a car one, there's like a cam gear running all the time. So you probably find if that isn't being pressed down on in one direction or the other. Let's change direction. I've still got to, oh no, I've got to go that way now, do I? What's that? Yeah, that's correct. Maybe that was the way I was turning before. So this one's pressing down now. That one isn't doing anything. So I'm guessing as soon as that stops and this thing isn't pushing down, isn't being pulled down by friction, yeah, there's a bit of a, I don't know if that's related to that or just the spring pressure, something on this is forcing that down. As soon as one of these little arms is, or both of them are free, or the one important one in that direction, and there's nothing pushing it down, something must get it to fling across. Well, I should be able to do it. In fact, yeah, if I hold that down and we keep turning this, we should be able to make it auto reverse. There we go, something happened, and yes, the other side started up. And if we hold that one up, looks like it takes a good rotation, so there is some sort of cam gear in there. We change again. So quite an effective little, very simple design. But I'll get some photos of this deck, because this is another Tanashin by the look of it, and I think I can prove it, because I think there's, you know, at least semi-prove it with, because technically this could be any other brand of deck attached to it, but what manufacturer is going to order 2 decks, make up a motor bracket to suit, to join them together? All these sort of punch holes and stuff tend to be the same on them, because when you get different decks, some of these other little holes, you'll find someone's attached a counter or some other little gadget to it. So a lot of those holes are used for various things. Sometimes the motor's on the other, or the bracket for the motor will be mounted sort of on this side or on the end, completely different to that one, because the motors can be facing back up this way, off to the side, off to the end, all sorts of different arrangements. I mean, maybe these, you know, they're completely different, the eject levers, but if you sort of look around, you often find little pieces that look like they're the same in both decks, from the same manufacturer. Yeah, really hard to tell for sure, but they could well have been stamped, easily stamped in the same factory. But there's not a lot between these 2 decks to show they're from the same manufacturer. But I'll get some details on that, and then once that glue's set, I'll leave that for a day or so, and that's 5-minute araldite, and this can be put back together and we can give it a test. Okay, back onto this one. The araldite should have set on that, so I just hopefully got to just spin this and it comes out. No, it doesn't. Oh, of course that lever thing's in the way now, isn't it? This little up thing to the other deck. Hopefully I can get it out without having to take the capstan out. There we go, something's happening. It's loose. Oh, there it is. There it goes. Okay, so that should spin. Oh, can I say it's still a little bit noisy, but that's because of the wires just touching against it, so I've got to put the belts back onto it. I guess we should see, do we replace these belts? They must be getting close to that stage. I think they were okay in this one. Although, yeah, I'm not going to bother actually getting this thing going, I don't think, other than just to get it running, because this is probably, I'm going to probably keep this for the mechanism more than anything, because this is another example of a Tanashin mechanism that I wasn't aware of, although I sort of found a similar one in a manual for Iowa, but this is actually kind of another variant. So I'm finding out there's quite a few variances and mixing and matching of different decks. Oh, one of the, oh wait, did I put the right belt on there? Because one of these is a counter belt, and I think it was that long, that one in the long shape, which kind of makes sense, because all the rest of them went around this. I have to take that thing off again, I think, because I can't get the belt on with that thing in place. I think I mainly just put it there to store it so I knew where it went. But we'll take that little lever off. Coming a tool. Slide that out from under that thing. And what's the easiest way to do this? I guess I need to shove the belt up under there. I can almost get my fingers in there. Ah, it disappeared again. Get that on the motor pulley. And get that on there. Yeah, nice and noise free. And I guess the counter belt goes from the reel on one of the decks. What do I got to do? Put this little piece back in. I'll slot the end under that other black lever. And then we should be pretty right. Oh, get in there. That's it. Oh, this wire. Don't know why they use such a thick wire on this thing. but it's getting in the way of the screwdriver. That's how stiff it is. That moves okay. Always check that it moves and you haven't tightened it up wrong. And normally it goes on the take up. They go like that, so did that come off that reel? Be the first one on a supply reel I think I've ever seen, but not impossible. It is a Teac after all, and they did the odd weird things in their cheaper units. That became really cheap and nasty, Teac did. There's the belt. So we've got to get all the buttons lined up with these bits on the bottom of the deck, and I've got pause on and I've got some other function on, so I'll get that back to normal. Yeah, that must come off the supply reel on the play record deck, I guess. I don't think there's anywhere else that could go. And those wires are catching again. How do I get all these to line up? I should be able to just sit them on there, I think, and just slide it across. That's kind of it, I think, and then I've just got to make sure this belt can't go on anything on the back. Pretty sure it's not going to stretch over to the other. Oh, is that on? It actually has come off now, I think, but I think it was on originally. Me fiddling with it's probably pulled it off the pulley. Yeah, it's definitely slack when it's on the pulley, so I don't know if that was actually shot before. There's some sort of braking going on here. It does turn the counter. Amazing, it's pretty loose. Oh no, I let the deck drop. That was a big mistake. Bloody. Always some distraction that causes you to mess things up, but anyway, I think I'll just leave that as it is, because like I said, this deck is not particularly good for anything at the moment. Maybe if I can retro bright those doors, or someone did send me a link to a video. It looks like you can retro bright yellow clear plastic, so, and even that what's his name, Adam Savage, is it, from the Mythbusters? He has a video on doing a reel-to-reel cassette player lid that seemed to come up quite a lot better. Not perfect, but pretty good. Why do these doors not want to stay shut? There we go. So that is something I'm going to try, because I've got the hydrogen peroxide there. I just got to really wait for the weather to actually have a bit of sunshine and stuff, and decent amount of hours of sunlight in the day. But we're getting close to spring now, so I'll try retro brighting some of this stuff. This will be good stuff to practice on, basically, because it's no loss if you wreck a $5 cassette player's doors doing something wrong. I don't think you really can do much wrong with retro brighting, but you never know how things are going to react until you try it. Actually, that belt did tighten up a bit when the deck's finally in place, so it's not too bad. Now this, I think, was over on this. Oh, I already put it in. I thought I'll put that in on that bottom one, but I've already put the bottom one in. So much for that plan, because that went down to the main board, I think. Might as well screw it all back together properly. But I'm trying to get all the different Tanashin mechs that I know about and see if I can find any other ones besides, because I want to do a little history thing on these mechanisms and try and document all the ones that existed, because I think that would be kind of, oh, that's what the other screw went to, was the other end of that wire. Yeah, there. I think it'd be interesting to know a bit more about them and at least document what they put out there. Now I'm going to line all these other switches up with the holes, and they don't seem to want to go, while simultaneously getting all the mechanical. I'm too far forward. Oh, too far, yeah, down, I guess, with the front panel. I think I'm going to have to flick these up by hand just about to get them in there. Oh, can I? Just marking them a bit, doesn't probably matter with this one so much, but ideally you do them from behind. You can just grab them and poke them up through the holes. Better than poking them with a screwdriver, that's for sure. If you want them to stay in mint condition. So I think I can screw this back on. Assume those black screws were for that. Let's put one in anyway. Yeah, I've got to put the gold screw in the earth. Oh, one thing I've got to check is what does what here. Lift the record tab. This goes up, I assume, yeah. So the only place it's going to really sit is above here. Well, that makes sense. I just don't remember that other spring. Oh, that didn't go into this, did it? Well, maybe the spring wasn't on there, surely. Maybe that's what it was. I come to think of it, I think that is how it was. I think one spring went into the other spring. Is that all it was? Yeah, one record switch operating on the board there. That's a weird design, but anyway, weird but effective. I guess it makes it a lot easier to join the two pieces together because you just stretch one spring to meet the other, which I must admit is a lot easier than some I've seen. Now where's that other? I've lost it. Oh, here it is. That big thick cable for the other head must be what goes into these other plugs, I guess. Does it go above that, below that? Does it matter? I don't know. And a race head. They went under there. They would have gone under there, I guess. So everything else is just these other ribbon cables, isn't it? Luckily I'm marked. And they will all have bent pins, no doubt, that won't fit in a hurry. So you just push them in. And this other wire went to somewhere under that one. There. That's definitely the white mark, the white tracer. I think you just shove them in and they're fine. Well, that would have gone under this other little bit as well. So we'd have the cable dress pretty right. I hope there was just 3 black screws on the, probably on the back. But yeah, not too hard to work on at least. Still takes a while. By the time you put everything back together. Oh, I thought we've got a dodgy power cord on this thing, haven't we? Power on, we've got an orange LED. Got no noise, we've got take up on that deck. Fast forward, rewind. Pause works, that was the bit we fixed, I think, wasn't it, on that deck. Record, take up, record switch is working. Well, it's mechanically moving, I guess I should say, because we don't know if it's any good. Might need to clean yet. That's one direction. It's the other direction. Fast forward, rewind. Doesn't have a pause, interesting. Oh, reverse mode, so we've got 2 different. Play one side, the other side, and stop, or just keep playing one side, then the other side, then the other, then start over again, kind of thing. and just keep going indefinitely. Make sure all these switches still work. Well, that's looking good. Now the counter was going, maybe not. Sometimes you got to hit reset. Oh, I know why it's not going, because I guess that's one reason they put it on the take-up reel. It's because the counter will go even if there's no tape in there. Don't know why you'd really want that. Yeah, counter's running now. Now that we've got a tape in there, but yeah, that is a rarity. And we've got a VU meter going. Orange and I don't know, I think they got red on the upper ones. I can auto reverse anyway, so I don't need to put on a particular side. Oh, it's orange up to 0. Here we've got direction lights. Ah, that's interesting. What have I done here? Oh, we just saw the red ones flash up when I did that. Look at that. But the direction light doesn't change. So is that connected to some... Well, there's a switch on the heads. Is it one of these? Oh, I wonder if it's one of these other switches or something. It must be a switch somewhere. Nothing changes when I do that. So that's your motor. No, don't know. What is it? Yeah, oh, I don't know. Let's see. If I can find my screwdriver, it's hiding, pointing at its end at me. That's the motor switch. Ah, that does something to the direction light. Because that looks like it comes off a little lever here. Oh, that went up though. Let's see, there's no direction light. You press that, the direction light comes on. Did I see? Oh, there's another switch there. What's that for? I'm not even sure. Is that just a tape-in sensor? Either that or metal chrome nut runs without it. And we have one direction light. Oh, it's working now. What the hell? Direction works. Weird. It's not the brightest, that one, but it's there. So did it not work with the tape in there? I don't know. Oh yeah. Doesn't work with the tape in there. So it's got to be something to do with that other switch, surely. God, these things are overly complicated. Let's see. Press play. Direction doesn't change. So maybe it just stopped working now. Yeah, no, it stopped working again. Okay, so it was probably just random that I put the tape in and it decided to stop working. So I'm going to intermittent direction switch. Well, that's annoying. But what happens when we press... So I didn't work out what that switch was for, did I? Is it metal, chrome? Well, it's got switches, so... Where is it? I wonder what it does. Remote pause, record. No idea. It's pressed by... It looks like it's about where the record tab is, but it can't be sure. No, it is next to it. So I think that is something to do with metal. Usually where a metal or chrome tape would... Is it labelled here? The other thing I noticed is someone's cut a couple of wires here and soldered them back on at some stage, or maybe that was done in the factory. I have no idea where the... If that just sets the... That turns the direction light on. In many ways not worth messing around with, but now it's got me interested as to how the hell it tells it. So it wires to the motor, wires to that switch, wires to that switch, wires to that switch. We have, oh, 2 green wires here. Where they might be the thing I'm looking for. Where do they go, I wonder? Then we've got the head. Where do those green wires go? There must be a switch down there or something. Don't make me pull the mech out again. Oh, I can see here where oh yeah, they do go to the yeah, they go to the direction switch, I think. So I wonder if a bit of contact cleaner in that thing will bring it back to life. Now how do I get it to to change? I guess we're gonna have to put the deck into play. Oh. Oh yeah. Well, so far it hasn't fixed it. I wouldn't mind betting that's related to it though. No, we've got no direction light. What can I do to poke around? Anything? Not really. But then if it's only 2 wires, where are the connections to the actual lights is the next question, I guess. That one doesn't go out, does it? So it just stays on all the time. Assume the signal comes up. Got no idea what's on this board. That goes to nothing. That's a transistor maybe? So if that's 2, well, that goes to that one. I think a circuit would be handy, but I don't think I could even find much info on this thing. That's interesting. We've got a Daewoo capacitor in here. I wonder if this is a Daewoo. A lot of Elna capacitors. When I start seeing Daewoo on things, it's usually a bad sign. It could well be a Daewoo. I know they like using these darker brown boards in their stuff and that brown glue on things. Oops, I just broke something. Oh, must hit the power switch. Well, cleaning the switch did not solve my problem. Oh, I wish I'd known about that before I pulled it to bits. Can we get to this board? No, without taking the whole thing out. There's always something to make the job more difficult, isn't there? Surely one of those is just a link. The other one... That LED, no, the LED's joined to that LED. So what on earth are those things? Because they look like they go between... Oh, could they... Could we have some weird... Well, what would it do? Could they be wired back to back in opposite directions or something? Never underestimate what weird things people do in these bits of electronics. 0.2, that seems a bit low for an LED. Am I actually on the LED? Is it an LED even? They wouldn't have used something else, would they? Power's off. Well, we might as well have a look on this front panel board and see what interesting little LEDs and stuff we got. think it'll come out fairly easy. Should do 2 screws and a couple of clips and we should have it. Definitely LEDs. Oops, I'll just pull the slider knob off, but that's the back of the panel, so it's got some nice little plastic bits to get the light up to those front panel bits. And we've got some cobwebs in there. So they are transistors there and there. Do they switch the LEDs? We've got a couple of 10k resistors. That comes up. What are these weirds? Oh, I can't see. Oh, they're under the... Okay, some resistors under there. So they do go across that way. That's what I thought. And that is another resistor. So the LED gets a resistor signal from that transistor. That one goes through to this transistor. Is it the middle pin? Yeah, middle to middle, I think. So which side of these is the base? That goes to a resistor. That goes... They're joined together, so these must be the bases, surely. Which goes through a resistor to this signal. And my marker pins are right in front of me. So that's one of them. That goes through a resistor, am I right? Yep. Into that transistor on that pin. Now the other one comes to, must be this pin on this transistor, which goes through a resistor to this one, I assume. No, hang on, that's the other side of the transistor. Yeah, so this one is completely differently wired. I'm almost suspecting one of them is a default light, and when the other one switches on, which is why we just have one pair of contacts. That's what I was thinking. So one of these is probably default on all the time, unless the other one gets switched, which is what this pair of wires are probably supposed to do. So what we can do is check if those wires do anything, I guess. Who knows, they might have fallen off with all me fiddling around with this thing, although they came good for a second there. Ah, there it is. Oh, this has got a... Oh, this is an on-off switch, because it's got a relay to turn it on and off. Because it's remote or whatever. Oh, so it's relay on, relay off with this switch. I was going to say something felt wrong with this power switch, but it's not a normal power switch, I don't think. But anyway. So they're joined. Oh, they're doing something. Oh, there you go. I think we can say they probably are our reverse switch. And the question is, do they come... Now I should be able to find where they come up to one of these, I would assume. That one, and not that one. Or do they go to both? So that comes to the second pin in on this display board, which comes up here through a resistor to that transistor. I mean, we just got a dry joint or something on one of these things. Don't think so. It's not the best looking soldering I've ever seen, but at least we should be able to find if there's a voltage. The other one, well, what we can do here is measure voltage to our little switchy and see if it does anything. On, I think. Better be careful I don't short anything out here. Oh, we're off. Now we're on. So, well, is the chassis earth? I guess it will be if that's there. We have nothing. And we have nothing. And we have nothing. Let's check the other side. We've got 0.1 volts. So that's been pulled to ground, I think. Was that the one? That's the second pin. What's the bet that's the one that was connected to this board? sure enough. So that's what's meant to trigger things around here. So we know that has got a paltry amount of voltage on it, and that's going to be our issue, I think. That paltry amount of voltage should be some sort of reasonable voltage, one would think. So that comes up here into this resistor. We got nothing, because we're off. Oh, now we've got the old scraping sound, but that's my multimeter doing that. Okay, let's try again. We currently got 0.1 volts there, which isn't enough to switch anything really, but that might be 0.1 volts there. That comes back to this transistor. If that's the base of the transistor, this should have some voltage on it. 10 volts there, 1.2 volts there. Which one of these LEDs is lit up? It's got 9 volts, 11 volts. Why has it got 9 volts on the other side? 11 volts, 11 volts. So that's the one that's obviously not turning on. Yep. As long as we've got the right voltage differential, that's all that really matters. So wait up, what do we got? That's a resistor that goes to that LED. So we've got, well, shouldn't that transistor have, it's almost like that transistor's faulty. 0.1 and 1.2, that doesn't measure very good. 1.4, 1.1, 1.9, that's more like what we'd expect. I doubt the transistor's faulty, but you never know. 0.6, 0.6, that is definitely the base. 1.7, 1.7. So if that was the, right up, we've got to have, yeah, well that's the problem, that pin there has a higher voltage than the base. That goes to this other pin, which is the other switching voltage, I think. Well, it should be the base of the other transistor. This is going to be a bit messy, I think. Why so much complexity for such a simple thing? But that's what they do. But it is a weird, because then they can only switch it with 2 wires sort of thing. So what's this other pin measure? That's 0.1. What the? I thought that was the 0.1. Oh wait, because we're not. We're running. That's 1.2 volts. That's 0.1 volts. 0.1 isn't going to switch anything on, obviously. Especially when the other pin is 1.2 volts. And 10 volts. So the base, I assume that's the emitter. Or what? No, they're the common. So that LED's got 10 volts on it. 11 and 11. So in other words, the LED, I guess, is connected to a rail. It comes into the collector. The collector is going to sit at the rail minus the LED forward voltage drop, which is why 11 becomes 10 or so. We need the base higher than the emitter, but why is the emitter also sitting at 1 volt? I just saw 0.6. Oh, it's 0.7 now. Hang on. That's definitely not working though. Better than it was. It was only 0.1 volts before, now it's dropping. Look at this going all over the place. Whereas am I disconnecting? I'm disconnecting, I think. So that should earth out, I think, when it's... If it earths out, it's going to stop that one from running. But what stops this one from running? Its base is, yeah, that's at 1 volt. It's 1.8 volts, so that's lit. Oh yeah, here's this collector on this one. When that gets pulled here down, there's going to be no bias on the base of that, I'm guessing. And that'll be the ground, yeah, so that makes sense. Yeah, when this transistor switches on, it goes close to ground, or whatever this is, 1 volt. That one is extinguished, that one becomes lit. Now we're back to 0.2 volts there, so that was 0.6 for a second there. I don't think it's a transistor, surely. Wait, what pulls it up is the question. There's nothing to pull it up. That's a weird... Well, how's it... If that goes open... Yeah, that doesn't make much sense, because the transistor needs the voltage on it. There's no other pull-up voltage. Assuming that switch goes to ground, which we checked it did, how does it pull itself up? I mean, it can go through the diode junctions, not really. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Really doesn't make much sense at all. The LED feeds through to the collector, puts the voltage on that. If that's ground, well, it's not actually ground, is that the issue? Could it be something to do with this connector here? I don't know which. Oh, yeah, we're in the right direction. So that should be shorted. That's shorted to ground. This other pin, the 2 emitters are not grounded, obviously. 0.6 to ground. Could that be a diode or something? It's 0.6 either way. So that goes to that connector 6. Definitely plugged back in, alright. I didn't actually unplug that one though, did I? I unplugged these other ones. Which pin is it? It's the N pin, which is the white trace. The white trace, it's this N1 pin 1 there. Of course, doesn't go to anything local by the look of it. Doesn't go to anything at all. Yeah, it still doesn't make sense how it doesn't have a pull-up resistor, really. C1815, C1815, they very rarely ever fail. Okay, I had a quick look under the board here and traced it across, though I'm not sure it's the right line. Anyway, what I did notice is the switch that goes to that head switch comes to a connector and goes straight back down the pink wires to that other switch I was playing with on the motor there, not the motor start switch, but the one that would make the reverse light come on and off. So I measured that, and it looks like it's about 30 ohms in the contacts, because when I fiddled with that, it actually came right there for a second. Let's check it again. That's now down to 10 ohms, so I wonder whether the contacts in that aren't a bit dicky or something. Could be enough. I mean, it's allowing the light to come on, but then why would it go through that green switch to ground? That makes it a little bit more complicated, but that's in series with things, so it's possible that the ground isn't as good a ground as I wanted. So when that goes open, will that make that transistor? No, it wouldn't make it turn on either. So that's a bit weird the way they've done this. I did trace that other track over to this thing, which I assume is a link here. The link goes down this line into a resistor to this. Well, is it a resistor? A pair of somethings. A pair of diodes. One diode goes to that pin, which is the other side of the pink wire. That's why I was measuring 0.6. I probably should disconnect those switches, but I think I was getting 0.6 both ways, but maybe that's because there's this other diode which goes to that end pin on that connector, which is a white wire which goes to the other deck. That's the motor switch in the other deck. So would it be something the other deck could affect it as well? So if the other deck's on, that can pull that thing down. If this one's here, the pink wire actually shorts. No, it doesn't short anything. I don't know. Oh, I guess we can measure across this anyway, can't we? That's on and that's on, so that's the green switch. And the other thing is, I guess, what resistance is the green switch? It's low. This one's around 20 ohms at the moment. What are these things? 1.2k resistor, a 6.4k resistor. So they're quite high. But this... Oh, hang on. But that switch was going to ground, wasn't it? So how do we get to ground? Man, this just gets messier by the minute. I really shouldn't have touched it. Where do I find a good ground on this thing? RCA socket will do. I thought that switch was switching to ground. Oh, well, I'm on the wrong connector, aren't I? Yeah, I am. I'm a moron. So maybe that's the bit that goes to the ground. So that makes a ground chain right through here. Yeah, it is that. It's got to be, because that should ground this, well, via a diode. If that green switch is high resistance, green wired switch, no, that's the other one, the pink wired switch, that would make this pin on, what connector is it? I can't even remember where it is now. Was it that one? No. Yeah, it could be that one. Yeah, that one. That pin there should go to ground, although it's 0.6. Let's measure that as a resistance. 2.6 mega ohm. So that, it should come across to there through a diode, and this here should go to ground. But it's 12 ohms now. I wonder if that resistance is enough to mess it up. The only thing I can think of is short that pink switch out. Let's see if that does anything. Now I've got all these buttons and stuff falling off everywhere. Which way around do they go? That way, by the look of it. What do these say? Kubia 011 or something. Don't know what that means, but yeah, there's got KUP on the main board, so it's possible it's something that stupid. The fact it came good for a second after I fiddled around there makes me think it's something to do with something like that. But doesn't mean it is. Because I still can't exactly picture what this circuit is in my head at the moment, but it's got to be something to do with having that earthed, because that's basically what those switches do, is earth it, but I'm not sure why it has a second switch. Ah, direction's now working. Now that I kind of know what it is, your little so and so. So what if we hold that switch open? Now we get neither. Yeah, now we got one, but not the other. And if I press on it, it's always the switch. Yeah, look at that. If I let go of the switch, I can actually blink between them. It's always the mechanical part that fails. Yeah, in that direction nothing. In that direction, if I press on it a bit, so it looks like it's just... So I pulled all that board out for nothing really, but who knew there was a switch there that did anything of value. Now where is my scrubby stuff? Let's clean that switch contact. If we push them in and rub that back and forwards, we should get some cleaning of contacts in there. Press that in, we've got the normal direction. Ah, really? Oh, nothing's changing there now. Ah, if I press on it, so is the switch actually not contacting properly at all? It's quite random, that's for sure. Look at that, flicking back and forwards, and so maybe it's more than the contact clean, or maybe I just haven't done a very good job of it. Weird. Now I've lost that stuff. But it's definitely related, that's why I like to squeeze it and both sides of it into the micro scrub stuff. Not really much room to move it around much in there. I'm going to pull it out. I think that's the only way to go, is to pull it out and spread it apart. Yeah, they don't look perfect, but let's give it a proper scrub with a clean part of the micro scrub. Now that looks more like it. Now I've actually given it a good clean up. I'm tempted to resolder that because that one of them certainly doesn't look the best. Not sure that's a dry joint or anything, but it doesn't look the greatest. And with me fiddling with it, it's looking worse and worse. Like it's about to snap off. That is certainly one of the weirder designs of how to trigger a direction LED. The fact it needs two switches is kind of crazy, really. And outright weird. Let's resolder that. Resolder that just to be sure. We don't have any dicky solder joints. But I think it just failed to really clean those contacts properly the first time. Come on, sit somewhere. I was sitting there before. Yeah, I've got 55 ohms. Let's do it on the actual contacts. Yeah, 55 ohms. This is insane. I cannot get this switch to work. Press on it, 6.2 ohms, let go. 34 ohms. It is really knackered, this one. It's bending both halves, isn't it? It is, both halves bend. You piece of goddamn transformer on the back. I might just bend it back. Let's bend the other half back towards that one a bit. That's too much because I think they're in contact all the time now. But they are shining nicely, so I can't imagine the contacts are still bad. $17 ohms, that's still not perfect, but better than it has been. As soon as I touch it, it drops. Now it's gone back up to 71 ohms. Yep, no, those contacts are shot, I think. Unbelievable, you can waste half an hour trying to fix a silly little switch that should just need a clean. It's crazy. It really wants replacing, I think, to be certain. There is a really bad little point there. I wonder, there's no way of really moving them. It's almost like it's actually burnt out in the middle there, isn't it? I'm going to get brutal here and scrape it with a screwdriver, because this is getting a bit ridiculous. It was almost like there's a little chunk of something, either a little burnt patch or a lump of something. I mean, you shouldn't have to go to those extremes, but I mean, it's not exactly doing a high current job, so it's not like the contacts would burn out over time. But maybe it was a dodgy bit of metal, maybe there was some foreign material that got in there and stuck to it. Very weird. But it shows how much time you can waste on these things. And it's a problem with second-hand equipment. It was always like this, multiple things wrong with it, because people never got anything fixed, or some people didn't. 0.4 ohms. I think we might have done it. Yeah, I don't know what that, there was a little black dot on it. And I'm guessing that was some sort of foreign matter. Or, I mean, it can't be burnt. But maybe there was a problem with the metal when it was made or something. You never know with these things, whether it didn't come out of the factory with issues. But if they don't fix it, then I'm giving up anyway, because that was way too much time wasted just to fix a reverse switch. But if you don't fix it, you don't learn, do you? But that's one good thing about microprocessors and stuff, is you wouldn't have all these crazy switches and weird circuits doing stuff like this. Ironically, they're more complicated but tend to be more reliable. Not likely to have that issue. Yeah, I think they're safe to turn that on. Uh-oh, maybe not, because it doesn't come on anymore. What have I done? We don't have any relay action. Just be careful, because this is live at the moment. Have we done something to short something out? Unless, I don't need to put these earth screws back in, I don't think. But you never know, it could be something silly. Yeah, that did it. Why did it work without an earth screw before? Surely that's not it. That must be coincidence. Oh, it briefly came up and then it went off. Hope I'm going to intermittent on that now. Comes on perfectly. Yet I had the whole board floating around in the breeze. This is why I don't like audio gear. It does some weird stuff at times. You have the whole board loose and the thing is earthed okay. Put the back panel on, screw it to the sockets, although they're actually isolated. You'd think it'd be a lot more earthed now. That's just, they do some crazy stuff, these things, they really do. Drive you mad. Absolutely bloody mad. Well, I haven't got round to, should have actually tested the display, I guess. Comes on no problem now. Yeah, LED changes, LED changes. Well, I think I fixed it. Bloody switch contacts. And this is the problem, if you've got no service manual. Interesting that other VU meter isn't going, which worries me a bit, but I hope we haven't done something to that now. Well, I guess we can put a tape in there and find out. No, they're both running, so it's interesting when you do that, it only affects one of them. I think that's just because that tape's, we've got a bit of a blank bit there. Now we've got sound on both. Oh, now it's disappeared again. Where I've been recording and messing around. Well, there you go. That was a waste of time, but still not exactly sure how that transistor was switching. But of course that other line went to the other transistors. So it's more about earthing them, I think. Well, the other transistor, not transistors plural. Not sure. I'm sure if I had a circuit diagram it would all make perfect sense what they've done there, but with that one it's a bit hard to picture the whole thing in your mind, but how that developed a voltage on the base of that other transistor to switch the LED. Or is that what those diodes are for? Maybe that gives you your 0.6 volt to switch it on. Dunno. It'll be something like that, no doubt. I never did work out what was the something I think happens on the other tape. Should check it, I guess. It looked a bit like that's playing. Turn it on in that direction. What happens if we start the other tape up? No difference so far. Because it seemed to have a diode that went into the motor switch of this one. Ah, I just worked out what it's for. And sure enough, when you press this tape deck, of course it lights up that direction. I just realised, I thought I bet it lights the direction light when we use this deck as well. Kind of crazy. So that's why they've kind of made it a default thing, I guess, in that mode. So when either deck's running, the default is to have that direction running. If we press this one as well, it makes no difference once that other transistor switched in. Oh, but yeah, if we stop that deck, we get and have the other deck running, we get it play like that's just another weird. Why would you have it? I guess it indicates one of the tape decks is running maybe. I guess if you're in continuous playback or whatever, it just gives you some indication that something's going. So if you're wondering why there's no sound coming and you can't see the tape turning, maybe you can see that's running. Wow, that's a whole lot of messing around with some overly complicated ancient technology. But it is kind of fascinating to see all these things, because I've forgotten a lot of it myself. These weird little features and the way they did things. That works. Oh, I don't think there's anything on that tape. Oh, we don't need to change sides on that because it's only a one-sided. All the things seem to work on there. I guess the only other thing is I could try recording on this thing. Yeah, what a complicated way to do it. And that's when you worked for a service agent, was always good if they had the manuals. You could just grab the manual and... Which side has all the mess on it? That one, I think. Yeah, it's got all the blank bits and stuff. Uh-oh. Got no rewind. Yeah, maybe the belt's a bit stuffed in this machine by the look of it, on the auto reverse deck. You can reverse the other way, so those belts are right at the end of their life by the look of it. CD on. Oh wow, this is the wrong deck. That's not the record deck. That's the record deck. So put on pause, play record. We can set our levels here. Turn that down. And you hear it distort when it gets right up into the red stuff. So you normally set it to just flickering on the 0 there. And we hit our counter reset. And the sound will cut out when we stop being in record mode. Oh, we went a bit too far back. Better not let that one run because that blocks copyright strikes. And we'll see what our levels are like here, probably a bit low. Which is what you often found, they'd be a bit lower. Can be the cassette itself, but often you'd tweak up the record levels or playback. You've got to check your playback levels are set correctly first with a test tape. And if they're at the right sort of level here, I don't know if that test tape of mine actually, usually they're set to 0 dB sort of thing. It should be on the little bit of paperwork in there. Now sometimes I think they did sort of come up to just below the 0. I think we'd normally set them so they'd just be starting to flicker those LEDs, or sometimes you'd set it so they're right on. Am I on the wrong side of this tape? No. I must be well past the 1 kilohertz bit. And if you get your playback levels set right, then you can set your record levels, and you normally set them so they're about the same. When you play it back, it should go up to the same level on the meter as what you saw when you hit record. This could be a little low. I'm not going to bother aligning it all up. But I think that'll do for that one, so thanks for watching.